It's time for another gardening update. Let's go out in the garden and see what's going on. I have the grow bags bunched up right now, but I'll be moving those around as I figure out where I want them all. The black pearl hybrids and the F2 autocrosses are easy to spot because of their dark foliage. As an experiment, I'm growing some of them in pure compost. You can see all of the tomato, pepper, and eggplant seedlings sprouting in this one. I have the peas right next to those, and we'll take a closer look at those later. Right next to the peas are the herbs, and I thinned those out some, but they need to be thinned out a little more. We've had a whole lot of rain this week, and for that reason, these potatoes are really growing tall. They're getting so tall that they'll probably be falling over pretty soon. They're just now starting to produce a few blooms. The banana toast tomato plant is just now starting to produce a few blooms. It won't be long and we'll have little tomatoes on that one. Next to it is the long purple eggplant, and it's blooming also. That variety has always been a very productive one for us. I found this hollow log in some free firewood a few years back, and I've been using it to grow flowers in. I stick the root balls inside the stump, and then stick the flowers through a hole in the side. This is what it looks like so far. I have 4 different types of petunias planted in it. It'll look a lot better later. This is what it looked like a few years ago, back when it had some bark on it still. I added more straw to the potato plants that are growing in straw, and they could use some more. I have 2 different types of snow peas growing on the string trellis. We might get a few, but warm weather is coming. As I mentioned in the last update, some of the corn crosses that I did have variegated foliage, but not very many of them, so I planted a whole bunch more seedlings. I'll let these grow long enough to see which ones are variegated and pull the ones that aren't. Our pole beans germinated unevenly, so some are a little later than others, and some of these will have to be thinned because they came up really thick. That single carrot that I overwintered is about 3.5 feet tall now. It'll be blooming very soon. Once they bolt and produce flower heads, they usually become fibrous and woody and aren't good to eat. The red rat's tail radish is also producing flowers, but that's okay because I'm growing them for the seed pods. Even though these blot peppers aren't ripe yet, I'm going to harvest them because I think they're slowing the pepper plant down. That should encourage it to produce some more blooms and peppers. The rest of the peppers are doing pretty well, and they should really take off once it gets warm again after we've had all of this rain. It usually takes them a while to get their roots spread out and get ready to grow once the warm weather hits for good. This year I grew 5 different types of peas in grow bags, 3 shelling type peas, and 2 snap peas. I went out and sampled a few that were ready to eat just to see which ones I liked the best. This one that you're looking at is called Lillian's Caseload, and it grew the tallest of the shelling peas and also had the most peas on it so far. Here's what the peas look like inside the pod. And I tasted a few and they were very good. I enjoyed them a lot. They were very sweet and very tasty. Little Marvel didn't grow as tall as Lillian's Caseload, and it might not have even needed the bamboo supports. And the peas are just now starting to form, so I didn't get to taste any of those. Kelvedon Wonder was later than Lillian's Caseload, but it does have some peas that are ready to test. It didn't grow very tall at all and wouldn't have needed the supports. I think you could just plant this in a row and it would be just fine. I was able to sample some of these, and they were good, but in my opinion they weren't as good as Lillian's Caseload. They just weren't quite as sweet and tasty in my opinion. I grew Sugar Ann snap peas last year, so I knew what to expect from those. They're quite a bit earlier than the Sugar Daddy snap peas, and they taste very good just like last year. There weren't any peas to sample on the Sugar Daddy snap peas, so I'll have to wait a while for those. As I mentioned before, I'm growing 10 different types of carrots this year. I thinned them out a little, but I still need to thin them some more. Here's a list on the screen of the 10 types we're growing. The lettuce is coming in pretty handy, and we haven't had any bitter lettuce yet. We had tacos a couple of days ago, and it sure was nice just to walk out into the garden and get some fresh lettuce and fresh cilantro. The garlic's still hanging in there, and it won't be long and we'll get to see how that's done. I bought these stackable pots for about $1 a piece a few years ago, and this year I decided to plant some of my pepper projects in them. Some of these are the ones I've been calling black cherry. The sweet potatoes are just kind of hanging around. They don't really like this cooler weather, but they'll take off once the hot weather gets here to stay. It's been a while, so I thought I'd show you some of the things we still have indoors. These are some of the various purple flash project peppers that I'm growing. And in the back I have all the green and white variegated ones, and some of those peppers are variegated too. I'm just about ready to move on to the next generation of those. Most of the carnivorous plants I let go semi-dormant during the winter time. This is a little B-52 flytrap with a couple of sundews that came up in there. And my other flytrap, as you can see, lost a lot of its leaves that turned black. I haven't cleaned those out yet. Then next to those is a Cape sundew plant that has lots of little ones coming up, and it looks like I need to water that. Speaking of little sundew plants, in my pitcher plant pot, I sprinkled a bunch of sundew seeds in there, and they're all growing very well. They were very tiny, but now they're starting to gain a little size, and they have dew all over them. And some of them have actually started to catch a few fungus gnats, which is a good thing. I really need to thin those out and put them in different pots or something, but for right now they're going to grow just the way they are. Then in my little homemade terrarium, I have a couple of other species of sundew plants that are doing pretty well too. Let us know how your garden's doing. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.